Now, as we understand it, white collar or corporate crime amounts for, or commercial crime rather, 930 million rand a year. That's absolutely extraordinary. Before we start talking about white collar crime itself, won't you start us off by explaining what is white collar or commercial crime?
So basically, white collar crime is where you have your employees of your company stealing sums of money within the company that amount to large amounts. And this may pertain to your individuals within the company, so your high executives, to your basic HR consultants, or your in-house employees who actually manipulate systems in order to steal money through the company.
In fact, in one case study, we heard of a business going under completely because one employee managed to make off with R1 million. It's quite brazen.
It's absolutely, and that's why at RBS we take into account that, you know, such measures, such claims can cripple a company because nobody has these amounts, you know, just sitting around. And unfortunately, yes, that business did close down as a result of the one employee.
Gillian, let's speak a little bit about why we're seeing more instances of white-collar crime or commercial crime in South Africa particularly.
It particularly is on the increase, and basically the 930 mil is basically what the stats show. I mean, those stats are not actually documented in terms of how many. A lot of them aren't reported. So why it's on the rise? Gambling pressures, singling parenting, increased costs often force normal law-abiding employees to commit fraud, which they wouldn't have done under normal circumstances. Financial pressures are quite hard on individuals, and one of the biggest problems we encounter are employees borrowing money from the insured with the intention of paying it back, that the money, you know, eventually gets out of hand. And they, you know, over a number of years, they just keep finding loopholes and stealing the money through the systems.
Gillian, are you able to give us an indication of the conviction rate when it comes to commercial crimes? Are we seeing these cases go through our legal system?
We are seeing them, although we are not seeing as many as we should. You know, the convictions of fraudsters is extremely difficult to achieve, and companies have to utilize the services of private contractors to assist the South African police and public prosecutors as they want to have any chance of securing some sort of professional prosecution. But the lack of a deterrent which should be provided by an effective criminal system is only the one problem that is faced by companies. So therefore the conviction rate is very low, and I think due to that they take advantage of this.
Gillian, let's turn our attention to companies themselves. I'm sure that this is a huge problem for many South African firms. So if you are an employer or you're the owner of a company, or perhaps you work in HR in a company, what are the steps that can be put in place to mitigate the risks of being a victim of commercial crime?
So there's quite a few tools that can be put in place, and one is effective risk management. So don't think you can put a risk management system tool in place and just let it run. It has to be, you know, adapted and always kept on its toes. You know, never become complacent with your risk management tool, because eventually there will be a loophole. So due to in terms of risk management, you know, due to the current economic climate, most often it's the first cost that a company would seek to do to reduce their risk management. And evidently this doesn't help, because, you know, if you cut down on your risk management, again, as I said, it makes open loopholes for your employees or the like to get into those systems. One of the other things is segregation of duties. Don't just give one employee a duty, you know, segregate it so that, you know, everybody has an eye open, you know, if they can fill in the loopholes. And basically, you must know what to look for. Streamline duties and responsibilities within a company, put effective risk controls and balances in place. As I said, segregate the duties of employees. Undertake strict and proper screening of employees when you're employing them. Often we find that companies aren't doing this, doing criminal checks, necessary checks on employees, before they employ them. Guard against syndicated crime. Put down a zero tolerance to crime within your company. Have a code of conduct to zero tolerance. And take swift action when sufficient evidence doesn't exist. And as I said, long-standing employees, a lot of companies think they're immune, but the stats show that it's your employees who have done through long service, over 10 years, that are the balance for the majority of the people who are stealing within companies. Another suggestion would be to implement a tip-off line. A lot of employees are nervous to come forward in the fact that they may be harassed or that. So, a tip-off line is always a good idea. And as I said, never become complacent and always react to red flags, whether they be big or small. Just always react to them.
Gillian Woolman, thank you so much for speaking to us today.
Thank you very much for having me.